perception that Germans are white, fair-haired and blue-eyed has never been true and will never be true. It's a myth. People always ask me where I'm from, like it's not possible to be German and black. From the moment I get up and leave the house in the morning, I'm confronted with racist views, images and stereotypes of black people. As a child, I always wanted to have white skin because I felt bad being black and not being able to blend in and always kind of sticking out of the group and being, you know, different than the rest. I didn't want to be different. I am traveling around Germany to talk with other black people about our experiences with racism. My first stop is Hamburg. That's where I was born and grew up. I had absolutely wonderful parents, and that helped me a lot in difficult situations. I mean, I always had a lot of friends, but I do remember in kindergarten that we played these funny games like Who's Afraid of the Black Man and 10 Little Negroes, it's called in German. So, and I remember that sometimes they ran after me and said, Jana Afrikaner, it means something like Jana is an African, Jana is an African. And the problem is that African meant something bad. I first met Sammy Deluxe when I was a teenager in Hamburg. Today he's one of Germany's most successful rappers and hip-hop artists.
Achso, ja?
Und das Ding ist aber so ein Umsonst-Ding eigentlich. Ja, ein paar Wochen jetzt.
I've come to see Sammy in his studio. He's had a number of top 10 hits and has sold over 1 million recordings. Today he also produces other musicians. As a kid I wanted to be white, and you?
Kennst du das?
Ja.
Yeah, as a kid white, and as a teenager I really wanted to be black.
Richtig schwarz.
Me too.
Weil dann, nicht den Zwiespalt
To not have this ambiguity, it seemed so clear-cut, like on the white side. White people just knew who they were, black people did too. I felt like I was in the middle. I grew up in a white family, in a white neighborhood. It was definitely a challenge.
Eine Challenge auf jeden Fall.
For me, the feeling of being caught in between is something imposed on you from the outside. I mean, people always say, don't you feel torn, two cultures, black and white, which do you feel more a part of? The fact is, you yourself don't find it unusual. Why should I have to choose?
Also ein Fakt, der bei mir ganz viel.
One thing that caused me a fair amount of confusion right from the start was that I have straight hair.
So, und das bei mir dann immer so war, wenn mich in der Grundschule oder so irgendwelche Kids Neger genannt haben und ich dann
In grade school, if some kid called me the N-word and I reacted defensively or aggressively, they'd say, hey, you're not really a nigger because your hair is straight. So for me, that was like, okay, I'm dark enough to get called the N-word, but my hair isn't frizzy or curly enough for me to have the right to get upset about it. That was the first contradiction that was imposed on me from the outside.
You wrote a song for your son about heroes, didn't you?
Den Song habe ich geschrieben 2008.
I wrote the song in 2008. At the time, I was reading a Harry Potter book to my son in the evening at bedtime, and one night he said he wished he were white, because then he could be like his friends. And all he'd have to do is paint that thing on his forehead and wear round glasses, and he'd look like Harry Potter. That made me realize that there's an acute shortage of dark-skinned superheroes. So I wrote this song and made a really nice video to go along with it.
auch ein sehr schönes Video dazu gedreht.
Ein Superheld mit brauner Haut.
Ich weiß noch, dass ich
I can remember when I was 13, I was into Nirvana, and that's when I started going to parties. And the other kids would say, "Huh, Nirvana, you're black. Why are you listening to that? You should be listening to black music." I did, and I liked it more. And then there was the black music scene, whatever that means, hip-hop and R&B.
Nirvana's cool.
Und dann in dieser Szene, wo halt...
And then all of a sudden you as a black person were part of the majority.
Und auf einmal war man ja in der Mehrheit.
And there were these positive
Auch
associations.
so mit so positiven Assoziationen.
Ja, also ich glaube, das war auch für mich ein großer...
I think that's one of the main reasons I became who I am.
Ich bin sozusagen, weil das Rap-Ding das erste war.
Rap was the first thing that gave me a home court advantage, so to speak.
So einen Heimvorteil hatte,
I just had to let my pants hang a little bit lower, pull my cap to the side, and move like this. And everyone was into it. It looked authentic, and it fit well with my exotic status. I did graffiti, DJing, collected records, started producing, rapping, and beatboxing. All the hip-hop disciplines except breakdancing. That was too much work.
So you're telling me you're not the sporty type?
Only with words.
As a journalist, I don't have a home court advantage.
When I decided to become a journalist and when I became an anchor, I was actually, I think, the first female black anchor in Germany. I didn't have any role models.
Hier sind die Nachrichten der DW aus Berlin. Herzlich willkommen.
For me, it's really important that black children, you know, when they switch on the TV, they might see me and think, oh, great, I can be on TV and read the news. And I don't have to have a job which fulfills the racist stereotypes. For me, that would be great if I could help bring down barriers in that sense.
Black people have been living in Germany for 400 years. Today they number about 1 million.
Familie, ja.
In Cologne I've come to see Theodor Wonja Michael.
So, die sind vor dem Flirt, ja. Das so
He was born in 1925 in Berlin. Why did your father come from Cameroon to Germany back then?
Kamerun war ja Deutsch.
Cameroon was a German colony.
Wie man früher
And just as people used to dream of going to America,
Ziel der jungen
at that time many young Africans wanted to come to Germany.
später den Rassismus
There was no such thing as what we now call racism,
Form noch nicht.
at least not as we know it today.
Auf, indem diese
It only started to take shape when the young Africans started asserting themselves. For instance, by marrying German women.
auch deutsche Frauen,
And the reaction was, they're taking away our women.
so nach dem Prinzip, die nehmen uns ja die Frauen weg.
Sie haben ja auch
You appeared in ethnographic exhibits, also known as human zoos. What was that like?
Stellen Sie sich vor, da werden
Imagine human beings
Leute aus
being exhibited like objects, literally exhibited,
was repräsentieren sollen.
for what they supposedly represented,
Afrika,
namely Africa,
mit dem
with
Bass-
vast skirts, drums, dancing, and songs.
und der Trommel und den Tänzen.
The idea was that people on display were foreign, exotic,
Aber
and were showing
diese
spectators
Dinge
what their
waren
homeland
die
was like.
Gedanken, das sind ja Fremde.
Basically, it was just a big show.
Zeigen uns, wie ihre Heimat ist. Im Grunde genommen war das Show.
How crazy is that? You as a German were supposed to imitate this perceived culture of Africa, which is such a huge continent.
Ist ja ein riesiger Kontinent, Kultur nachspielen sollen.
Ja, ich bin doch ein Schwarzer, ich muss
But
doch
I'm
das
a black
können.
man, so of course I should be able to
So
do
ist
that.
das, ja?
That's how it is.
Das haben
It's
die
in my
im
blood.
Und, wenn Sie,
Let's talk about the Nazi era. It's so hard to imagine because black people would obviously attract attention in a regime that was so racist.
So ist
That's
es.
right.
Also man brauchte keinen Judenstern.
We didn't need to wear a yellow star.
Ja, sofort,
Everyone could see we were aliens.
Did you know a lot of other black people in Germany?
Aber ja,
Oh,
wir kannten
sure.
uns alle.
Everyone knew
Das
everyone.
Unendliche.
There were so many colonial films made back then. And many of us would meet up as part of the cast.
Ja,
That's me.
Das ist meine Nahrung.
That's my close-up.
Dass die damals die
I like the fact that they shot a close-up of me.
Alle Schwarzen, die es gab, waren zusammengefasst.
Everyone who was black was in that film.
Und bei dieser Gelegenheit
I was
kamen wir
16 at the
damals
time.
16 Jahre alt, das,
And it struck me,
mein Gott,
my God,
wir
we're
sind
all here
alle
together.
zusammen. Die können uns
They
hier
could take us away without anyone noticing.
alle, ohne dass es auffällt. Der Gedanke hat mich
And that thought weighed very heavily on me.
Es war, es ging Gott sei
But
Dank.
thank God that never came to pass.
Bei den Paar, die wir waren,
We were too few in number to matter to the Nazis.
das natürlich überhaupt keine Rolle. Und ich habe
And
auch
I avoided
keinen
all contact with white women.
mit weißen Frauen
That would have been horrible.
gesucht. Es wäre schlimm gewesen, da wäre dann
I would have been sterilized.
Sterilisation dazugekommen und
And I might also have been charged with racial defilement.
wegen Rassenschande.
Aber wenn man das so vor Augen hat,
You say that you took great care not to get too close to white women or girls. Was it like hiding or trying to become invisible? How can we imagine that?
Wie kann man sich das vorstellen?
Sie nehmen das richtige
Well, that's the
Wort,
right word.
unsichtbar machen.
Invisible.
Aber ich konnte mich gar nicht unsichtbar
Of course, with a face like this, I could never completely disappear.
unsichtbar machen.
But I tried.
Aber ich habe es versucht.
I really did.
Ich habe es versucht und es gibt das eine
The main thing was to keep your head down and your mouth shut.
Maul halten.
I made sure I did that,
Das muss man anwenden,
to the point that I started to stutter.
bis zur Stotterei. Nicht?
Ja?
I stuttered terribly.
Aber wenn man das so hört,
Listening to the difficult, often horrible things you experienced,
schwierige.
how did you find the strength
Wie haben
to
Sie
go
die
on?
Kraft gefunden, weiterzumachen?
Ja, also da muss ich.
Well, I have to
wiederum
say,
sagen, mit Gottes
with
Hilfe.
God's help.
Und,
I became a
gestern
religious
bin ich
person.
Ein religiöser Mensch geworden. Ne? Denn
That gave me hope.
das war die Hoffnung.
Theodor Wonja Michael always says there's nothing in the German constitution that states what a German is supposed to look like. But some people haven't gotten the message. For them, we are still exotic. When I was a child, complete strangers would touch my hair and say, "It feels like a bird's nest."
My God, it's good to see you. I watch breakfast TV every morning. I turn on the set and think, an Afro-German woman on German public TV. We're so proud of you. You do such a wonderful job. But dear me, look at your hair.
We have to talk about that.
Yes, we do. We'll work in some coconut oil.
Like many other black men, I have a vision with that dream.
Thanks a lot.
Ganz toll. Ich danke dir sehr.
I love your curls.
Ja?
Okay, then I will always wear curls.
These are happy curls.
Now I'm really happy to be talking to Esther Donkor, the founder of Krause Locke or Curly Hair magazine. Sometimes I think that black people's hair is really politicized. It's like a political statement, whether you have your hair done or wear it naturally. The stereotype is that their hair is messy and wild. That doesn't go over well in the professional world.
Afro hair just isn't acceptable in our society. It still doesn't comply with our ideals of beauty. Look at Beyoncé. She's a black woman, she's a performer, she's the embodiment of empowerment, but she still wears a straight blonde weave. I've met women who work in law offices and places like that who get into trouble if they wear their hair naturally.
Can you tell us about the natural hair movement?
I sort of fell into it. It's about allowing people with Afro-textured hair to wear it naturally without causing a fuss or having to feel self-conscious. That's what life is about, accepting yourself.
To feel comfortable in your own skin, that's the goal, but it's not so easy.
I think the problem is that if you see all these stereotypes about Africa, about tribes, about being primitive, barbaric, natives, underdeveloped, it hurts you.
Part of the problem are the images from the days of colonialism. In Berlin, there are still streets named after German colonies and colonialists. It was here in Berlin in 1884 that European nations held a conference where they carved up Africa into colonies. I'm here at a street festival aimed at forcing the city to change the name from Mohrenstraße.
I'm here with Joshua Kwesi Akins, political scientist and activist. Why is it so important for you to rename the street?
The term Moor is one of the oldest German words for black person. But if we look at the roots of the term, it has the Latin and the Greek roots, morus and marus, and yes, that means dark or black, but it also means stupid, heathen, and primitive. And so we see already in the origin of the word that there is this idea of black inferiority. But then if we look into the history of the street name, we see that the street was named or acquired its name in the context of the Brandenburgian involvement in the transatlantic enslavement enterprise.
How would you say does Germany deal with this colonial history?
I think there's a huge problem. A lot of aspects of German colonial history are not widely known. We can't even begin to understand National Socialism without looking at the colonial antecedents, because we find that there are ideological, political, but also personal continuities linking German colonialism and National Socialism.
Kwesi and I set off to uncover some of the traces of colonialism in the German capital.
Okay. I think I moved to Berlin 10 years ago, but this is the first time I'm seeing this fresco. Can you explain what I'm seeing?
So we had Amela House, and this here shows us the trail of tobacco. So you see enslaved African men harvesting tobacco, then enslaved African women packaging the tobacco, then it is sorted and weighed, there's a white overseer, and then it's packaged further, it's made ready for shipment. And you see one of the white overseers is already lounging and having a smoke, but then you see the ship departing for Berlin. You can clearly see it's Berlin because you see the silhouette of the German and the French dome. So this clearly explains the source of the wealth that was used to build this place. Right? But of course it also implicates the people that frequented here in the suffering that is also depicted here.
Black people are often defined by their skin color. The well-known South African artist Robin Rode plays with these stereotypes. He experienced apartheid in South Africa. Now he's been living in Berlin for 14 years.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I can see you're working on a new piece.
Yes, I have a work in process, and it's a work that somehow reminisces about my South African identity. And of course, the Afro-Comb is a strong symbol.
It's interesting that you chose hair. Of course, I can identify with that. But what role did Afro hair play for you?
Hair became a way to classify race. Pencils were placed through hair to depict the kind of hair strand and therefore the racial category.
So saying that if they go through my hair, they say it's Afro hair, I am
exactly.
black, or probably categorized as colored, right?
As colored or as mixed race. So if the color went very fine through your hair, you'd be categorized as white.
How were you classified in South Africa?
I'm classified as colored. I'm classified as a person of mixed race. And so are my parents and so are my grandparents. And in many ways, my cultural background is quite complex because we don't associate ourselves with black and neither white.
Sorry. Are you viewed as black? Do you see as black in this German context?
Well, I think within the German context, I'm viewed as Arab.
Oh, really?
So that's actually pretty interesting. I use art as a way to subvert, but also to play with and unravel what these kind of cultural labels are. This particular piece, very experimental painting, everything needs to be defined, everything needs to be categorized. And I'm trying to now explore the notion of something that is completely endless, something that is completely undefined.
I was born in 1981, and in the early 90s we had a series of brutal racist attacks here in Germany. In Rostock-Lichtenhagen, in Hoyerswerda, in Solingen, it was really bad. Bystanders even clapped during the attacks. It was really heartbreaking to see, and it frightened me so much as a child.
And I think that's something that is also very scary if you look at the recent rise in racist attacks on refugees in Germany. And so few of the people who attacked them were caught and put on trial. And I think that's a really dangerous message to everyone who experiences racism, because that means, okay, you can be attacked, but you can attack people, but you can get away with it. And that gives us the message, okay, people can do to you whatever they want. They won't be put on trial. And that scares me a lot.
Isa Bara is an apprentice roofer working in the eastern German state of Saxony-Anhalt. He hasn't been living here for very long. In 2013, he fled Burkina Faso for Germany. His job gives the 28-year-old some stability. But otherwise, his life is often difficult. Recently, he was beaten up by a right-wing thug. I meet Isa in the town of Burg, where he lives. 8 months ago, you were beaten up right here. Tell us about that.
I went into the store and saw a man with a woman and child. And he said, "Look at that," using the N-word, "look at this black piece of trash." I didn't say anything. I went to the counter to pay, and he went like this. I said, "What do you want from me?" And he says, "I'll show you." I went over there, and he hit me 3 or 4 times, like this.
How badly were you hurt?
I felt a lot of pain in my stomach, and I coughed up blood for about a month.
How does it feel when no one steps in to help you when you're being beaten up and you're often treated with hostility and insulted? How do you cope?
I'm always afraid when I go out now. When I go to work, I'm afraid of what might happen along the way. People make gestures like, "I'm going to cut your throat." And they shout, "Go back to where you came from." People do that to me every day.
This is the courthouse in the town of Stendal. It's where the man who beat up Isa is on trial. How do you feel knowing you're about to see the person who attacked you?
I'm not afraid. I can't wait to see him again and look into his eyes.
The attacker, who has a long criminal record, was found guilty of assault and sentenced to 10 months in jail. But he appealed, which is the reason for this hearing. Cameras aren't allowed inside the courtroom. After 4 hours, the court adjourns. Isa, how was it for you today?
I never expected it to go so well. I'm very pleased.
The conviction is upheld, but the attacker intends to appeal again.
Once you wake up in the morning and you switch on the radio or you switch on the TV, you're confronted with all these stereotypes about Africa. And it's really difficult to talk about racism in Germany because once I experienced it, when I talk about racism, people say, oh, you're too emotional, you're overreacting, that can't be true. I'm sure the person didn't mean it that way, so they don't really take it serious. And that is really hard because I feel like I am not taking serious with my experiences.
I expose what has been kept quiet as a secret. I expose racism without regret, pity, shame, or guilt.
The author of this play is the artist and writer Grada Quilomba. She's originally from Portugal, but has lived for many years in Berlin.
For me, it took a lot of effort to research Black German history. I had to go out because it was nothing that was presented to me in school, for example. What role does silencing play in your art?
I think in the last works that I've been doing, I'm very concerned with this question of silencing and speaking, and with the fact that it's not that we have not been producing knowledge or have not been speaking, but we live in a system that constantly silences us or make these knowledges invisible. Racism is really, metaphorically, for me, a ghost that our society never took care of and never cared, because we live in this very white, narcissistic society that don't want to deal with it.
And then she said, well, but for me you are not black. I don't think that you are black. And she said that in a way as if she was doing me a favor.
When did you start feeling that, no, I don't believe this dominant narratives you just talked about? When did you figure it out and said, no, this can't be it? There must be
something else.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can tell you, but I believe it has always been there. Now, as a mother, when I am with my children and I hear them bringing the topic of racism, even though they are 2 and 4, 5, it just turned 5, it is still, I see that they are aware that it's not right. And it's extremely complicated to explain such a brutal history. And this is the trauma of Black people and people from many other diasporas who went through similar experiences, collective experiences that you cannot explain and apply any logic to something that is so absolutely illogical.
I am not aggressive.
Angry because this is aggressive.
Yes, I combat.
I do not want to be better.
Let's now turn to a question that I've heard more times than I can count. How come your parents are white? The answer, my biological father came from Zimbabwe, my biological mother from Germany. Directly after I was born in Hamburg, I was adopted by a German-Swedish couple. And for me, they are my parents. This is Indira Pasch. She too is adopted. I grew up in West Germany, she grew up in the East. We are inside an old guard tower from the days of communist East Germany. A wall divided Berlin until 1989. Indira's biological father is from Guinea. He was studying at the University of Leipzig when he met her biological mother. But she was married and her husband was in jail. Nevertheless, he said he could imagine raising the child.
wusste aber nicht,
But he didn't know that I was going to look the way I look, that I would be a black child.
Und dieser Mann hatte halt bis zu seinem Lebensende.
And this man was a hardcore right-winger.
Und kurz nach meiner Geburt,
he got out of jail soon after I was born. It was obvious that I wasn't a white child.
Dann hat halt
and he tried, he attempted to kill me.
Versuche mich umzubringen. Und meine leibliche Mutter hat
My biological mother saw him dangling me out the window. So in all likelihood, she said, before the child is killed, I will send her away. And at some point, she decided to put me up for adoption.
Mich zur Adoption freizugeben. Dass du halt allein gelassen wurdest von
I think that subconsciously, in any case, you never forget that you were abandoned by your biological parents. You were born and were unwanted. You take that with you to your grave. To me, it still seems unfair to just give away a child like that.
Ja, ein Kind einfach so wegzugeben.
Nein! Komm mal hoch! Ja, los, hoch! Hoch! Ui!
Stopp!
Indira works as a dog trainer and has adopted several neglected dogs.
Und der weiß schon, was machen soll.
Wie war es denn?
How was it for you in play school?
Für euch?
Ja, die Problematik war, dass es dort
One problem was the teachers who thought we shouldn't eat with the other kids.
Dürften nicht mit den anderen Kindern essen.
We were supposed to wash our hands really thoroughly, as if something could rub off on the other kids.
Und es wäre auch kompliziert, wenn man uns anfassen würde, weil es könnte ja irgendwie
And we weren't allowed to nap near the other children.
zusammen schlafen. Und meine Eltern wollten uns schützen.
My parents did everything to protect us. They gave up everything. They had to be there for us kids. They fought for us. They did what they could, and I think it was the right thing that they moved to East Berlin.
You hear so often, oh, adoptive parents can never be the real parents, but that is complete nonsense. You really feel the love they have for their children, just like any other parents.
Absolutely.
They protect you and do everything for you. You're a family, whether someone gave birth to you or not.
Absolutely. For me, blood relationship is meaningless.
Zählt überhaupt null Blutsverwandtschaft. Ja?
For me too.
For me, it's immaterial. My parents told me about how they drove to the children's home in Leipzig where I was. And I crawled straight into my papa's arms. For me, it was clear, that's my papa and that's really great.
Das ist mein Papi und ja, das ist total schön.
And that's how it was until the end. We were really close.
Dass wir so eine enge Verbindung hatten.
It wasn't until the age of 17 that Indira met her biological mother.
Dann sind wir halt eine Runde gelaufen.
We went for a walk and she said, I didn't want you to turn out so black. That was the very first sentence I heard from my biological mother.
Und dann habe ich gesagt,
and I said, okay, well, what did you expect?
talking with other Afro-Germans about our experiences gives me strength. That's one reason why I'm a member of the Initiative of Black People in Germany. Every year they hold an annual meeting. This is the first time I'm attending.
Normalerweise war sie, Frau Grötrup, die Chefin der Küche. Und seine Aufgaben waren es, die Post hereinzuholen, die Außentemperatur zu kontrollieren und die Schuhe zu putzen.
Author Sharon Dodua-Otu is holding a spontaneous reading. Around 270 people have come to the initiative's annual meeting. The group was formed over 30 years ago. Tahir Della is in the steering committee. Tell me, how was the initiative founded?
It was thanks to two happy coincidences. The first, Audre Lorde was in Berlin.
Who was Audre Lorde?
She was an American writer from the Black feminist movement in the US. She was teaching in Berlin. Over the course of her time there, she met a lot of black women who came to her readings, but discovered that they didn't know each other. So she hit on the idea of connecting them so that they could exchange experiences. She also brought out what I believe is the first book of stories by black people about black people in Germany.
Schwarze Geschichte von schwarzen Menschen über schwarze Menschen in Deutschland.
I am a black man.
Everyone is welcome to read aloud at the initiative's meeting.
When I look at a white man, I mean a really white, glowing in the night, white man.
The theme of this meeting is empowerment and self-care. What does it mean?
Ja, wie gesagt, Empowerment, schwarzen Menschen.
Empowerment means showing black people, especially young people, that there is a lot they can do themselves, that they can take charge of a lot of things, develop themselves, and establish new perspectives. Self-care, within a society influenced by racism, entails ensuring that you as a black person stay healthy, protect yourself, and grow stronger. It's a mixture. It involves politics, but also drinking smoothies or doing yoga or sports.
Sport machen.
At the Bundesliga soccer club Schalke, Gerald Asamoah is a legend.
Glück auf.
Until 2011, he played in the German national team.
Du hast dich versteckt.
A day in the life of Gerald Asamoah. Not bad. Gerald, Erwin Kostede was the very first black German national player, but you were also one of the first. You started playing for Germany in 2001. How was that?
Wie war denn das für dich damals?
Also Erwin Kostede war ja...
I've heard that Kostede was more half and half.
What does that mean?
Mir wurde gemeint, du warst der richtige Schwarze.
Let's just say I was the first really black one. The first black African.
Ja, also es war nicht einfach.
It wasn't easy for me back then to decide. I could have played for Ghana. In fact, I had decided to play for Ghana. I was in Ghana, but then they didn't play me. I went back to Germany, and Germany was very insistent. And at some point I said, okay, I'll play for Germany. And that was very rewarding, very interesting. It wasn't easy, but it was nice.
What wasn't easy?
There's some people, some idiots, who don't want to accept us, and that was my big problem. You can do something for your country, but you're still the black guy. Here's an example. After the World Cup in 2006, we came in third, and people accepted us. And then suddenly, a month later, you get booed and called an ape during a match. And that was a moment where I seriously considered no longer playing for Germany. It hurt a hell of a lot.
After hanging up his soccer boots, Gerald Asamoah became a youth coach, and today he's the manager of Schalke's under-23s. How was growing up in Ghana? Are you from Accra?
No, I'm from Mampong. 5 hours away from Accra. It was a small village where people didn't have much. After school, we'd play soccer with balls made of socks. When I look at my son, he has everything, and he doesn't know what to do with it. I had to struggle to get 2 square meals a day. That was how I grew up, and it affected me. It made me set goals and say, I have to give my all to achieve something. And that got me where I am.
I can no longer understand why, as a child, I wanted to be white. Even if it takes a lot of strength and energy to deal with racism and to hold your head up high, I wouldn't want a different skin color, not for anything in the world.